This video will show you how to repair or replace your Xbox One hard drive using Linux. This method will work on the Xbox One X, S, or original model system. For this process, you'll need an 8GB or larger NTFS formatted USB flash drive for doing an OSU1 offline update. A link on how to create an OSU1 flash drive will be in the description and in the link above. You'll also want a second 8GB or larger FAT32 formatted USB flash drive for creating and running an Ubuntu Linux Live USB. A link for creating this flash drive can be found in the description and in the link above. You will also need a SATA to USB adapter for connecting your Xbox One hard drive to your PC or Mac computer. And finally, you'll need a new or working original drive to format as either 500GB, 1TB, or 2TB in size. One last thing to mention, and should have probably been mentioned in all of my repair videos, is that you may not have to open your system at all. If your system is booting to the troubleshoot menu and giving you any E error other than E100, try to do an OSU1 offline update first. If that doesn't work, try to reset the system and do an OSU1 offline update again. If you are booting to a black screen or trying the prior steps fail, continue watching. So for today's video, we have our trusty Xbox One original system here, and we're going to assume that the original hard drive is toast, so either it died, blew up, disappeared, what have you. And we're going to build a new 500GB drive. So we're going to treat this as if it's a new drive. So we're going to reformat it and get it back into our system and use the OSU1 offline update to recover the system. Now, just to exemplify one of the signs that your hard drive has failed, just to show you here, because this is hard to see, we have our system fully hooked up here with HDMI and power. And what I'm going to do is shrink this down really quick and bring up our capture interface here. And I'm going to show you what happens when we power on a system without a hard drive plugged in at all. So essentially this is the same as a dead hard drive. And I'm not going to waste your time too much here, but what you're seeing is basically nothing. So there's no video output signal from the Xbox One when a hard drive is not connected to your system or is not functioning properly. Now for this exercise, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm going to assume that you already have an Ubuntu flash drive and an OSU1 flash drive. So to start off here, we're going to actually boot our Ubuntu flash drive. So I'll put a quick screen cap of the model Mac system that we're going to be using in this video. It's a Mac Mini late 2014 model system, and we're going to boot up this flash drive. Now it's worth mentioning on my Mac Mini that I only have 4 USB ports available, and 2 of them are used up by the mouse and keyboard. So I have a USB hub here. That's the model that I'm using for this video. It's a USB 3 hub, but it only has a couple USB 3 ports, and then it has a bunch of USB 2.0 ports. Not the greatest hub. There are better than this, but I'm willing to bet this is pretty cheap. Anyways, for our USB flash drive, we're just going to plug it into one of these ports here. This is a USB 2.0 flash drive, so we're just going to plug it in one of these ports here on the top and save these ports on the back for our actual hard drive. Now, to get a Mac to boot from a USB flash drive, if we have a Mac keyboard, we want to hold down the Option key and press power on our system. If we have a Windows keyboard connected to our Mac, we want to hold down the Alt key and press power on our system. In my particular case, I have a Windows keyboard. So we're going to turn on the power and hold down the Alt key. You'll know pretty quickly if you did it correctly, which is you'll see this boot menu here. The first option is if we want to boot up our normal Mac OS. which is signified here by the hard drive. But the option we want to choose here to boot from our flash drive is the EFI boot option. So we're just going to select this here with our mouse. And you don't need to press any key here. It's going to load up the try Ubuntu. And this is going to load a live instance, meaning it's not going to install anything to the hard drive. It's just going to boot off the USB flash drive. Now, one of the things I probably should have done is connect our hard drive that we're going to be formatting. So again, we're going to be formatting this 500 gigabyte Western Digital drive. So we'll use our SATA adapter. This SATA adapter I'll have linked in the description as to the model I'm using. And we're going to connect this here into our USB 3 port on the back. But I suppose before we actually attach it, let's just show you that the drive isn't attached, and then we'll show you that it is. So what we're going to want to do here is anywhere on the desktop, we're going to right click and we're going to select Open Terminal. Again, I'm using a Windows mouse, so I have two mouse buttons, a left and a right. If you're using a Mac mouse, which doesn't have a right click button, if you hold down the control button and you use the left mouse click or the only mouse click you have, it's equivalent to the secondary click or the right click with a Windows mouse. Now, we placed our scripts on the root of our flash drive, and as it turns out, in Ubuntu, when we want to go to the root of our flash drive, the path we want to get to is cd/media/cd-rom and press enter. From here we can do an ls, and the thing we're looking for is the Xbox One HDD master. So at this point we'll do another cd, Xbox One, or start typing Xbox and hit tab, and then we want to go into Linux directory, so start typing Linux and press tab and enter. If we do an ls in this directory, we can see the two primary scripts that we want to use. So to actually format our hard drive, we're going to be using the create xbox drive.sh, and to check out which disk we actually need to format, we're going to use the list part info.sh. So let's see if we can see our 500 gigabyte hard drive. We shouldn't, because you can see here it's not connected. In order to do that, we'll type in the command sudo sudo // and start typing list, so list tab, and hit enter. And what you'll see here is a listing of all the current hard drives that the script was able to find. And as you can see, you cannot see our 500 gigabyte hard drive. So let's remedy that by actually connecting this up. And we'll plug this into our back port here. And you can see our drive came up. This drive was actually a working Xbox One hard drive. That's why you're seeing all those partitions popping up here. Okay, so let's run the list script again. So this time we just have to hit up, the up arrow on our keyboard, and press enter to run that command again. And now you can see magically there is our 500 gigabyte hard drive. And the important thing to get here is which disk the hard drive that we want to format actually is. So in our particular case, it's the SDC drive. So once we know which drive we actually want to format, we're going to start using our create script. So to do that, we're going to type sudo / create and hit tab and press enter. Now, without putting any of the proper options into the command, you'll see that we get some instructions on how to actually use our script. This is fairly standard fare for Linux commands. So whenever you run a Linux command improperly or without the necessary options, it will display or instruct you on what options you'll likely need to use. So in this particular case, in creating a new drive, we can actually take from our examples here at the bottom. Now, one thing to mention is each of our options that the script takes, we have what's referred to as a short form and a long form, and they're interchangeable. So here in our examples, we're using a -D for our device, but we could just as easily, we could type -- and then drive in place of -D. Now, if you'll notice here at the example part of our script, there are obviously different switches for each one of these lines, but one of the main things to pay attention to is the -S option. And the -S option refers to stage. And for this script, we separate out the actions that the script actually performs in stages. So stage 0 will just fully erase a drive. Stage 1 will both erase a drive and partition the drive. And because this is an Xbox One script, it will partition the drive as an Xbox One drive. Stage 2 will allow you to copy from a source drive to a target drive. In this particular case, we're doing a repair, so we don't have anything to copy from. So stage 2 will not be relevant. And finally, stage 3 will rewrite the drive GUIDs. So in this particular case, we only need to be concerned, or this particular process, we only need to be concerned with stage 1 and stage 3. So we'll use this line here as our example. Okay, but I will, instead of copying and pasting, I will completely write out the command just so I can explain it as I'm doing it. So we're going to want to do a sudo. I haven't explained sudo, but sudo is increasing your privileges to be administrator level. It's very similar to the run as administrator option in Windows. So when you want to run commands as an administrator instead of a regular user, you put sudo in front of the command that you want to run. Anyways, the next part of the command is // and we're going to type create. And then we're going to do a -D option. But we could just as easily use -- drive. And we want to put in the device that we're going to be formatting. So we had already established earlier that our device is dev SDC. So we go back down here to our command and type /dev SDC. Now we want to do a stage 1 because we want to erase the drive and repartition it. And again, you could use -S or you could use -- stage. And again, we can use the number 1 here. Next is the -T option. If we look up here, -T is a disk type. So this represents the size drive that we're trying to format. So in our particular case, we already established that we're formatting a 500 gigabyte drive. So the -T option here, or also -- disk type, will be 0 for a 500 gigabyte drive. If you are formatting a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte, but particular 1 terabyte, you'd put a 1 there, and a 2 terabyte, you'd put a 2. As I mentioned, for the Xbox One, you can directly go. So in this case, if you have a system that is lacking a hard drive completely, you could buy a 2 terabyte drive and do this process and have a 2 terabyte system. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. Okay, so in our example, the next option is the -M option. And if we look up here, the M option is mirror. So the mirror option, it says mirror standard partition sizes specified with -T on drive -D. Not using this option will auto size user content. So if you want to create a standard drive, you want the mirror option. Without the mirror option, it will just try to auto size your drive to whatever size drive you have attached. I would almost always, unless you're knowingly wanting to create a non-standard drive, use the M option. Or in this particular case, we'll do -- mirror. Now, using standard sizes gives you the benefit of being able to reset your system later. And also, when reformatting a new drive, only standard size drives can be created as new drives. Okay, and that should be all we need here for our command. So we'll press enter. And let the script do its thing. Okay, so a lot of text went by here, but it looks like everything went okay. So once the disk partitioning is complete, you'll get a message instructing you what you might want to run for your follow-up command. So what it says here is a disk partitioning complete, copy the folder contents from the original drive with, and basically this is a stage 2 command. Now, since we're going to be creating a new drive and not copying from a working drive, we don't want to choose this option. We want to choose the next item here, which is or set proper GUID values with, and then here's this command. Now, the script is smart enough to actually give you the proper command that you'll need to run next based upon the options used in the prior command. So you can see for our drive, it set it as SDC, and all it did was change the stage number to 3, disk type 0, and use the mirror option. So to save time, you could just copy and paste this command. So to copy and paste in Linux, you want to use your mouse left button or the only mouse button you have. Highlight the command that you want to copy and press Shift Insert. Now the only thing missing from this command that we just copied is the sudo in front. So we'd want to hit our home key, or we can use our left arrow key to go all the way to the front of the command, and we would add the sudo and the dot and /. The other thing we could do is press the up arrow key, and where it says stage 1, we'll replace it with stage 3 and press enter. And this will go through and put the proper GUID values onto the hard drive. Okay, so when this is complete, it will show you the current state of your Xbox One hard drive. So it'll show you all the GUID values. Here's our disk label here, and then it will show you each of the partitions. Now this line shouldn't be here. I'm not quite sure. It seems like with the newer version of Ubuntu, some of the output from the command I'm using or reading the disk information from has changed a little bit. So I might go back and fix this at some point, but it's nothing to be concerned with. What we might want to do is check that our GUID values are appropriate. So let's click Files here. I assume this is a File Explorer. Yeah, there we go. So in this particular guy, let's select Other Locations, and we'll click Computer. And from here, we should be able to go to our media directory, CD-ROM, our Xbox One HD master, Linux, and we should be able to look at our readme.txt. So just double click that, and it will open it in some sort of text editor here. From within here, we can scroll down. Okay, and it looks like we want to scroll down to step 10 here, and step 10 will show us the GUID values for the proper GUID values for our partitions, the drive itself. So this is actually, our example here is 2 terabytes, so we're we're building a 500 gigabyte drive, so we want to make sure it matches up here. And so it should start with A234. If we look at our drive here, it's A234. That's fine. Then we go to temp content, and we can see it's B37. And we have B37, 869, C90D, it looks like, 9A05, and 24B2. Okay, so everything looks like it worked perfectly there. So at this point, we're done. It looks like we have a properly formatted Xbox One hard drive. So the only thing we have left to do here is disconnect the drive. Now, since we don't need the Linux environment anymore, what I suggest is clicking power here, using this power option here, and we will say power off. Okay, so at this point, we should be ready to take this drive and put it into our Xbox One system. So we're going to disconnect it from our Mac. And I have to grab our capture HDMI here. Plug this into our Xbox One. And then throw in our Xbox One drive. Okay, so now we're going to want to power on our Xbox One system. And because our hard drive is empty, we should get the error that you see in front of you here, which is the E106. Basically, E106 just means that no system update files could be found in the system update partition. Now, to correct this, we're going to have to use our OSU1 flash drive. But before we actually do this, we're going to want to reset our system. The reason being is we can't be sure of the prior state of the system NAND. So when it failed, there may have been a bunch of games installed. There were probably a couple of profiles on the hard drive itself. But now the hard drive that we've installed is completely empty, so it's missing those games and it's missing those profiles. But what will happen is you'll get a strange sort of ghosting effect where some of the profiles will try to load. For instance, it'll try to log you in and it will fail, or you'll see games in your game list that you can't play and you can't remove. So I always suggest resetting your Xbox. The other issue you might have is that you can't do the offline update at all. You'll get some sort of stoppage around the 58% mark or so doing the offline update. So we want to select the reset this Xbox option, and I usually like to say remove everything. Now you heard a beep there, and normally it would actually do a reboot at this point. But because we don't have any files on our hard drive, it usually fails at doing that. And you can see our controller actually shut off as soon as it beeped. So it made an attempt to shut down, but it's not going to be able to do it. Now I'd recommend waiting for about 60 seconds or so here. It's not critical that you do, but there is a possibility it's doing something and it's going to reset on its own. But it's unlikely for that to happen. However, if you wait 60 seconds, there's a good chance that it's probably never going to reboot on its own. Okay, so it looks like it's not going to reboot on its own, so we're going to hold down the power key here. And you want to do this for about 10 seconds. And once we know our system is fully off, we're going to power it on. Now what you should hopefully see is what you see here. It should be preparing the console, and that means it's actually resetting the NAND. And it just did a quick reboot. And now we're back to the troubleshoot menu, which we expect. We should still have the E106 error because we don't have any update files in our system update partition. Now what we're going to do is take our OSU1 flash drive and plug it into our system here. And if everything worked okay, the offline update should not be grayed out and you should be able to select it. What I should have shown here is if you actually don't have the OSU1 flash drive plugged in, it'll be grayed out, as you can see here. If you put the files on it correctly, when you plug it in, the offline system update icon should be selectable. Okay, so at this point we want to hit the A button and start doing the offline update. So this should be pretty hands-off. This whole process can take a while. I'm not sure exactly how long, but I'll try to pay attention to it. Okay, so that whole process took about 7 minutes, almost exactly 7 minutes. And what we're going to do next is finish the initialization of our Xbox One here. I'm going to move the camera window again, try to get this out of the way up here. Okay, I'm going to add my account, so this is going to cause me to go to stop the video here real quick and then add my account, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I got my account added. I usually leave most of these things to the default. The one exception to taking all the defaults is I use energy saving, and I always uncheck these so I control when my system actually updates. Okay, to get through this as fast as possible, we want to go down to thank you, press enter on that, and then go to exit. Now, just to show you what size drive we have, we're going to go into settings, system, storage, and as you can see, we have a essentially a 365 gigabyte hard drive. Somewhere along the line, the Xbox One made a slight change where the way it counts drive sizes, it used to be an even 365, but I've been noticing lately it comes out as 364.9. Not quite sure why there was a change, but it still works all the same, and that's a very small difference in the end. I think it's actually only a few megabytes different in actual size, if it's a different size at all. Okay, so we see our system works. One more thing I want to show you is we're going to shut our console off. Now with the console off, we can take out our OSU1 flash drive, and we're going to power on the system again. Now I want you to pay close attention to the capture screen here. When I power this on, you'll see the no signal message goes away, but instead of the usual boot logo, which is the green Xbox logo with a green background and a strobing light, or a light that goes back and forth, is missing. Now, I thought a bit about how I could add that to this video. In my repair replace video for Windows, I show you at this point where we'll take this hard drive out and attach it again to our Windows system and re-add the boot anim files. I'm not going to do that in this video. Instead, I'm going to link you right here. I'm going to link you to the Xbox One missing boot animation fix video, so you can actually fix your boot animation. But the reason I'm not going to do that in this particular video is that I'm trying to do a non-Windows version of repairing your system. I'm trying to do the Linux version of repairing your system. And the problem with that is that Mac computers can't, out of the box, read or write NTFS partitions. So you can't take out your Xbox One hard drive at this point and attach it to your Mac system and be able to move the boot anim files over to your system update partition. So it's fine to leave all of this as is, meaning you will just be using your Xbox One system without the boot animation when you start it up. It's fine to do that, since the next time Microsoft releases an update, you can just update your system and the boot animation will be back, which is straightforward enough. But if it's something that really bothers you and you want to re-add them, then watch that video. But you really will need Windows or a Windows system to be able to put those files back. You can do it using Linux, but that means you'll have to put your Ubuntu flash drive onto your Mac system, boot into Mac OS, download the boot anim files, copy them to the root of your Ubuntu USB flash drive, then go back to my video part where we boot up our Mac system into the Ubuntu Linux Live USB flash drive, get all the way to the desktop, and then copy the boot anim off the root of Ubuntu, which should be under Media CD-ROM, and put the boot animation file, or copy the boot animation file from there, and paste it into the A and B folders of the system update partition. So it is doable. I'm not going to do it in this video, just to keep this video at a proper length and keep its focus at repairing your Xbox One 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte hard drive. So that should do it. That's the process of fixing or repairing and or replacing your Xbox One hard drive using Linux. So I'll see you guys in my next video, where I show you how to do a direct copy of this drive to a larger 2 terabyte drive. So essentially the process of upgrading your hard drive. So I hope you guys found this video useful. And again, I'll see you in my next video.